The Book of Mormon translation that the Church portrayed and still portrays to its members. The Book of Mormon translation as it actually happened. Since learning this disturbing new information and feeling betrayed, I have been attacked, gaslighted by revisionist Mormon apologists, claiming that it's my fault and the fault of anyone else for not knowing this. The information was there all along, they say. You should have known this, they claim. Respected LDS historian and scholar Richard Bushman, as quoted above, understands the problem. Unlike these gaslighting revisionist apologists, he has compassion, understanding, and empathy for those who are shocked to learn this faith-challenging information. In 2000, two BYU religion professors, Joseph Fielding McConkie, son of Elder Bruce R. McConkie, and Craig A. Osler, wrote an essay titled The Process of Translating the Book of Mormon. They wrote, quote, "Everything we have in the Book of Mormon, according to Mr. Whitmer, was translated by placing the chocolate-colored stone in a hat into which Joseph would bury his head so as to close out the light. While doing so, he could see an oblong piece of parchment on which the hieroglyphs would appear, and below the ancient writing, the translation would be given in English. Joseph would then read this to Oliver Cowdery, who in turn would write it. If he did so correctly, the characters and the interpretation would disappear and be replaced by other characters with their interpretation." End quote. After laying the groundwork, the professors continue, quote, "Finally, the testimony of David Whitmer simply does not accord with the divine pattern. If Joseph Smith translated everything that is now in the Book of Mormon without using the gold plates, we are left to wonder why the plates were necessary in the first place. It will be remembered that possession of the plates placed the Smith family in considerable danger, causing them a host of difficulties. If the plates were not part of the translation process, this would not have been the case. It also leaves us wondering why the Lord directed the writers of the Book of Mormon to take a duplicate record of the plates of Lehi. This provision, which compensated for the loss of the 116 pages, would have served no purpose either. Furthermore, we would be left to wonder why it was necessary for Moroni to instruct Joseph each year for 4 years before he was entrusted with the plates. We would also wonder why it was so important for Moroni to show the plates to the 3 witnesses, including David Whitmer, and why did the Lord have the prophet show the plates to the 8 witnesses? Why all this flap and fuss if the prophet didn't really have the plates and if they were not used in the process of translation? What David Whitmer is asking us to believe is that the Lord had Moroni seal up the plates and the means by which they were to be translated hundreds of years before they would come into Joseph Smith's possession, and then decide to have the prophet use a seer stone found while digging a well so that none of these things would be necessary after all. Is this, we would ask, really a credible explanation of the way the heavens operate? End quote. How could it have been expected of me and any other member to know about and to embrace the Rock in the Hat translation when even these 2 faithful full-time professors of religion at BYU rejected it as a fictitious lie meant to undermine Joseph Smith and the truth claims of the restoration? The first vision concerns and questions. Quote, "Our whole strength rests on the validity of that first vision. It either occurred or it did not occur. If it did not, then this work is a fraud. If it did, then it is the most important and wonderful work under the heavens." End quote. President Gordon B. Hinckley, The Marvelous Foundation of Our Faith. Number 1, there are at least 4 different first vision accounts by Joseph Smith, which the church admits in its November 2013 First Vision Accounts essay. The 1832 handwritten account, 2 1835 accounts, an 1838 account, the official version, and an 1842 account. In the only handwritten account by Joseph Smith, penned in 1832, but not publicly published until much later, describes the first vision in an unfamiliar way. Quote, "And while in the attitude of calling upon the Lord in the 16th year of my age, a pillar of fire light above the brightness of the sun at noonday come down from above and rested upon me, and I was filled with the Spirit of God, and the Lord opened the heavens upon me, and I saw the Lord, and he spake unto me, saying, Joseph, my son, thy sins are forgiven thee. Go thy way, walk in my statutes, and keep my commandments. Behold, I am the Lord of glory. I was crucified for the world, that all those who believe on my name may have eternal life." End quote. No mention of two beings. 12 years after the vision happened, age is 15 years old, or on his 16th year of age, not 14 years old. No reference to asking the question about which church he should join. No description of being attacked by Satan. Number 2, contradictions. In the 1832 account, Joseph wrote that before praying, he knew there was no true or living faith or denomination upon the earth as built by Jesus Christ in the New Testament. His primary purpose in going to prayer was to seek forgiveness for his sins. Quote, "Searching the scriptures, I found that mankind did not come unto the Lord, but that they had apostatized from the true and living faith. And there was no society or denomination that was built upon the gospel of Jesus Christ." In the official 1838 account, however, Joseph wrote, quote, "My objective in going to inquire of the Lord was to know which of all the sects was right, that I might know which to join. For at this time it had never been entered into my heart that all were wrong." This is in direct contradiction to his 1832 first vision account. Number 3, late appearance of claims. No one, including Joseph's family members and the saints, had ever heard about the first vision from 12 to 22 years after it supposedly occurred. The first and earliest written account of the first vision in Joseph Smith's journal was 12 years after the spring of 1820. There is absolutely no record of any claimed first vision prior to this 1832 account. Despite the emphasis placed on it now, the first vision does not appear to have been widely taught to members of the church until the 1840s, more than a decade after the church was founded, and 20 years after it allegedly occurred. James B. Allen, former BYU professor and assistant church historian, explains, quote, "There is little, if any, evidence, however, that by the early 1830s, Joseph Smith was telling the story in public. At least, if he were telling it, no one seemed to consider it important enough to have record of it at the time, and no one was criticizing him for it. Not even in his own history did Joseph Smith mention being criticized in this period for telling the story of the first vision. The fact that none of the available contemporary writings about Joseph Smith in the 1830s, none of the publications of the church in that decade, and no contemporary journal or correspondence yet discovered mentions the story of the first vision is convincing evidence that at best it received only limited circulation in those early days." End quote. Number 4, other problems. Who appears to him?